Mommy is the babe. Babe with the power. Power of voodoo. You do. Mommy is the babe. Quiet! A goblin babe. Well...
Hey, did you see my shirt?
Bigfoot is real. Come on. He tried to eat my ass.
I'm wondering if Bigfoot has an equal but opposite shirt with me on it.
Leave it to John to pick the family movie that we're reviewing to make that joke. I'm Dan Carlson. I'm 1/4 of the Lost Blokes. I am still sporting my bottle of Johnny Walker. As you can see, it's a little less full than it was last week.
Good job.
I'm John Kadolf. I'm John Kadolf. I am 125% of the Lost Blokes as well, and I'm sporting my normal Angry Orchard. I got a couple of them here, one on deck.
Hi, I'm Dave Nesbitt. You can figure out what percentage I am of the Lost Blokes.
33.7%.
Don't make our audience do math.
We didn't tell you that there were going to be word problems, folks. Our apologies. I am currently, because I will be writing later and I need a good buzz for that, I am currently having a Abita Amber Lager, and I decided to also balance it out with a nice Pilsner with a St. Pauli girl.
I couldn't find any peach liqueur, and so the closest I have, I was like, well, s'mores are like childhoody, right? I'm the Mad Hat Cat. I am 25% of the Lost Blokes, which I am finally getting used to saying. Part of me misses the weird math, but at the same time, I love the Lost Blokes.
Yeah, you can still do weird math if you want, Kat.
And I chose today's movie. This movie came out before I was born, but it has been one of my favorite movies my entire life. I probably saw it on Disney Channel at some point when I was a small bean. But ever since then, it has been just an absolute focal point in my cinematic and fan inspired content for my entire life. Very much like Sarah, I do not want to grow up. I like my toys and my costumes. No one better lay hands on my bear. They better not come in my room. I hate that. I hate it! Dude, this is not a family film. The beginning is super fucking scary. Like the lights go out and the cackling of the no.
Jim Henson is terrifying. Makes terrifying things anyway, because the scariest thing I ever saw that stays with me to this day is one of the first seasons of the Muppet Show, where this Muppet is looking into a mirror and she's singing "I Feel Pretty," and she takes her eyeball off. And she takes her other eyeball up, and then she puts this crazy looking, and I still, when I watch it, get the chills.
Yeah,
so,
I understand that. Yeah,
this movie, I swear I'm going to get to the actual synopsis, but even though this movie is kind of simplistically written, it's highly quotable, at least for me, and I don't know. There's something about it, even though it's very simplistic. It all works. It all works for me. I know that some people have said, like, well, no, it just comes across like a kid's movie, like you said. No, you do not understand. You do not understand. You are not allowing yourself. Suspend your disbelief and allow yourself.
Open your mind.
Jennifer Connelly. This is very early in her acting career.
Like 14 when they shot this.
She had made a horror movie a year before called Phenomena, and I was convinced that Henson must have seen it and thought,
and be like, yes.
and thought, well, she can handle being around 1,000 bugs. Maybe she can handle dealing with puppets for 2 hours.
So during this deep dark opening, and you've got the snowy elf flying at you and horns playing, that gives it kind of an epic adventure kind of feel. This is both a dark, frightening, disturbing kind of movie, but it's also kind of it's cool and it's jazzy and it's fun. And you've got both of those elements going through in the music. So after our opening here, we come across this verdant green area with a stone bridge, and there's swans swimming in the lake in the background, and a young woman rushes across the bridge, and she is wearing a long flowing white gown with peasant sleeves and flowers in her hair, and she jumps into a monologue that sounds very theatrical. Give me the child. Through dangers untold and hardships unnumbered, I have fought my way here to the castle beyond the Goblin City to take back the child you have stolen. And just, ooh, well, I thought this was going to be like a contemporary story. And eventually, after she finishes the little she doesn't finish the monologue because she always forgets that damn line.
Yep.
And she refers back to her little playbook. So we understand now. It is contemporary, and she's just rehearsing something. And she clearly has a very rich inner imaginative world.
Every time I watch this, and I don't remember feeling this way when I was younger, but every time I watch this now, I think to myself, God, she is such a brat.
She's totally whiny. I almost get the feeling like she doesn't really have friends, and I've never been quite sure if they had just moved to this place from somewhere else, because through like little snippets throughout the opening, we get the sense that her mother, the woman who gave birth to her, was an actor in the past, and she is either divorced from Sarah's father or she has died. I think they're probably divorced, and she, Sarah very much idealizes her mother and demonizes her stepmother. I do get baby bi, baby pan, baby queer girl vibes from Sarah, because she does it whether or not they're in a new place. She doesn't have a lot of friends. She's very, very much in her own inner world, which is not to say that non-queer people don't do that, but it's just little vibes here and there. So, okay, fine. She's stuck home babysitting, and she's very upset about it. She's pouting in her room, and everything is so fucking dramatic.
Yes,
and I don't know that I was ever as whiny as Sarah, but that whole thing, like, Dad knocks on the door, Sarah, we'll be home around midnight, blah, 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 and then just leaves. You really wanted to talk to me, didn't you? Practically broke down the door. Throws lipstick.
It has that kind of and maybe it's because it's got her in it, and she was just in a Dario Argento movie the year before.
Yeah.
But it has that kind of Italian operatic Suspiria vibe to me.
It does kind of. Everything is so over the top with her. So the parents have gone, and Toby starts crying. You hear him in the back, and God damn, that baby has just, I don't know if, I know that all of the noises and there were several different babies being used in this movie for Toby. And I think maybe some of the baby cries are not actually the baby, but I don't blame her. I am getting major dysphonia from that fucking kid.
Dave, you had a little bit of just to throw that out there, you had a little bit of a theory about, you mentioned that the mother has a photograph, or there's a photograph of the mother with David Bowie on the wall.
Yeah, go back and rewatch. There's a moment where you see her looking at a photo of her mother. I can't remember if it's in a news clip or on the wall, but basically the impression you get is that her mother is dating this very David Bowie-like character. And I have this idea that Jareth winds up getting formed in her mind as this kind of expectation of what, of someone who would take you away from it all would be. And it winds up kind of forming that particular space in her mind where when Jareth steps in, Jareth just assumes that form.
Another layer.
I also have a theory. I have
go
a theory that the owl is actually like a local spirit or a spirit that's been attached to Sarah for a while.
Yeah.
And has been waiting for this opportunity to sit there and kind of be that thing that drives her to either give her the choice of staying in childhood or moving on and getting her life together. And so I that's, the whole analogy as we go through the film is pretty much about retaining that ability to dream like a child while stepping in and accepting the responsibilities of adulthood.
Right.
And I think that's what the whole Jareth spirit is really in its end about.
Either that or
It is.
that spirit really does want her to just lean into all of her worst tendencies, and that kind of seeing it laid out before her, she's like, maybe that's not the person I want to be.
I'm in the minority of this theory, but my feeling is, I mentioned something to John, and I said, I'm not even sure that Jareth even exists. And he said, no, he definitely exists because he's in scenes that she's not in. But yeah. I'm not saying that it's a dream. I think it may be a reverie or like a daydream, because she's reading a play that actually has the plot of what she's doing. So I think we may be seeing her experiencing the play kind of with herself in it.
She's writing theatrical fan fiction.
Yes, and as she goes through it's kind of, for me anyway, about the journey that stories can take you on to make you have realizations. It's actually about the story, but that's just my take.
I do have confirmation.
I'll defer to everyone else. So
I do have confirmation that the picture of Sarah's mother with Jeremy,
the blonde man.
Well, his name is Jeremy. And
you can actually, like, the text is clear enough to see that.
Yes, and it is David Bowie in the picture.
Sarah's pissed off at this fucking baby. Who can blame her? Yeah. And she goes through this, like telling herself a story to make her feel better and basically make her the hero, the poor tortured Cinderella. And we kind of cut back and forth between basically this like wall of sleeping goblins who kind of get a little whisper on the winds of a human is about to make a terrible mistake. And
she say it? Does she say it?
You shut up! She's going to say the words. Goblin King, wherever you may be, take this child of mine far away from me. No, that's not it. Where'd she learn that rubbish? It doesn't even start with I wish. I wish the goblins would come and take you away right now. That's not hard, is it?
So it does begin with I wish.
Yeah, no, it does. Like, I love that, what actually makes the thing to kind of make her dreams come true for a lot of the things in this movie are like very practical, simple answers. Like, they're not ornate and elaborate, or elabyrinth. I'm not sorry. She finally, again, comes upon that very simple answer after she's kind of exhausted her theatricality. She goes to the door, she flips she goes to the door, she says, I wish the goblins would come and take you away. Click. Right now. She turns away to leave, and suddenly silence. And just like a little bit of the rumble of the thunder outside. And that's a little bit weird. That's a little bit too good of timing. And she slowly turns back around and she starts calling to him very, very softly, Toby. She slowly walks towards the crib, and nothing happening. But then all of a sudden you see a little underneath the blanket. And there's so much good tension in the scene. I love it. And then she flings back the covers, the lightning flashes, and the camera pans back. There's nothing there. The baby is gone. And then goblins cackling and clambering around in areas just outside of you. Again, really good use of puppetry in this scene.
They're like the dwarves from Phantasm. They just kind of show up for a split second.
Yep.
Luckily, none of them leap out and go, and at exactly 12 minutes into the movie, we see the shadow creep up along the floor as the snowy owl transforms into David Bowie in all his pentited glittery glory. Ah.
I'm pretty sure that those pants were in some way, shape, or form sprayed on, like, spray spandex or something. That's the only
Oh,
explanation.
heavens to Betsy!
Yeah,
Like,
it was like
Sarah, if this is a daydream, this is a good daydream, girl. He doesn't even say who he is. Sarah, and this is going to be a thing throughout the entire movie, assigns all of these traits to him. She says, "You're him, aren't you? You're the Goblin King." And he just smiles with his fantastic eyeshadow, just eyebrows.
I'm here to give you what you want, Sarah.
He said, "Please, I want my brother back if it's all the same, please." "Where is he?" "You know very well where he is." Adjusts leather gloves. There's like nothing about this character that is not just like incredibly drool worthy.
This is a character that is entirely powered by the sheer raw power of the rule of cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Everything he does is just like awesome.
Yeah, and even though it's not actually David Bowie, it's I don't know if he's an acrobat or if he's a juggler or he has
his name is Michael Motion, and he kind of created that whole style of
juggling. No, this whole contact juggling thing, swirling around the crystal ball. It suddenly appears, "I brought you a gift." "What is it?" "It's a crystal, nothing more. But if you turn it this way and look into it, it will show you your dreams."
I just realized that she's very distracted by trinkets the same way that Hoggle is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So Sarah is obviously tempted by this because she doesn't say, "No, I don't want it." She's looking at it very longingly. She doesn't say yes, but she doesn't say no either. And he's constantly telling her, like, "Look, go back to your room. Play with your toys and your costumes. Forget about the baby." And she's very firm in her resolve. She's suddenly, and she doesn't seem like she feels like she's going to get in trouble over this. Like, "Oh shit, I got to get that baby back or I'm fucking grounded forever."
Oh yeah.
Like that's not the vibe we get. Like she does feel genuine remorse. She may not like the baby, but like it's not his fault that, her life has been uprooted the way that it has been. He's a fucking baby. And even if his pajamas are really obnoxious looking and has that stupid little hat that matches.
I mean,
yeah.
he's a baby. He doesn't have.
I don't know what it is about
the taste for good clothes yet.
I typically like love anything striped, but I just hate those fucking baby pajamas. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because I hate Toby. It's okay, Toby. I'm sorry.
I wonder how many Sarahs gave up right there.
Right.
And just said, "You can keep them."
When you say how many, John, when you say how many Sarahs, are you speaking metaphorically, like how many people, or how many? Do you think that there's a multiverse where there's other Sarahs out there?
I think that
yes to both.
Jareth has been doing this for a very, very long time.
He's got
thousands of goblins there, and I believe he's been seeking. It's always got to be Sarah. It's always Sarah. He's been seeking out his Sarah for millennia and been collecting babies, and just no Sarah has ever got to the castle before.
There's a line in there where Bowie turns and looks at the various goblins and say, "You remind me of the babe," and you begin to realize all of these goblins are probably children that he's kidnapped over the years and grown into the beings that he's wanted them to be.
Yep, they're all babies, or all former babies.
Mm-hmm.
See,
some of them are very
Muppet babies.
Some of them are
my
very.
God.
But think about it.
Like
some of those goblins are very ancient. They're so old. Yeah, no.
He's
been doing
the
this
one that's
for
actually
so
in
long.
the labyrinth with the bird hat. Which that's the one of the favorite characters that I was referencing. It was such a him and the hat have such a brief introduction, but they're so memorable. And I love that fucking hat. Like it's just so you've got to imagine like it had a lot more foul language, and they were like, actually, we maybe got to tone it down just a little bit. We only get one crap, and this is our one crap.
They did say damn a couple times too.
Yes, they got a few dams. Like, this movie is PG, I think. And they did get one crap, and I love the voice of the hat too. It's been one of my favorites, like, for my whole life. Hi, will you listen to this crap?
So he comes to her and then tells her that she has to, if she wants to find the baby, she has such and such amount of time
hours to solve the labyrinth.
There's the facepalm moment when she goes, piece of cake. I'm like, oh.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, who else thinks that Sarah at the beginning of this film is kind of like Luke Skywalker, and that Toby is kind of like R2D2? You know, he wants to go and get his power converters. He wants to go and get his power converters. He's whining about it. He's whining about having to stay and joining the academy and this and that. And then this baby, or R2D2, comes along, and he's supposed to maintain it or take care of it, and it takes off, and then he's like, oh, I'm gonna be in so much trouble. He ends up going down this little path inside this gulch, you know, which is kind of like a labyrinth. And and the goblins are kind of like Jawas.
Well, it's a hero's journey story, and it makes sense. George Lucas was one of the uncredited.
The unwilling hero. Yeah, that's right. I always forget that at the beginning. This is another one of those movies like Willow, where there are, you know, these like just huge names in filmmaking coming together to make this kind of like weird and very fun high fantasy film, and it never does super well in its time, but it has like a kind of small but very, very dedicated fan base, like just years later. Same thing with Dark Crystal.
Just have this image in my mind of, you know, George Lucas and Jim Henson and Terry Jones, and Terry Jones basically called them up and said, hey guys, I have weed in the script, come on over. And they went, yeah, sounds great. And off they went.
And it's Trevor Jones, not Terry. Who the fuck is Terry?
It is Terry Jones who wrote the script.
Are you sure?
Trevor Jones was the composer. Terry Jones was the screenwriter.
All right, fair enough.
From Monty Python. He actually was.
Fair enough.
He actually was.
Both the Jones boys. Yeah. Get the Jones boys in.
Yeah. He actually was hired by Henson to write it, and his original script has been changed so much that he said it's like 50% his, but you can definitely tell there's Monty Python humor in there, quite a bit of it.
Oh yeah, there is. I mean, our first introduction to Hoggle is him peeing into a fountain.
I do that all the time.
Henson's like, okay, in the Muppet movie, I showed you Kermit the Frog on a bike, and you couldn't believe your eyes. Now what else have I not shown a Muppet to? He's got to take a piss.
So Hoggle is this first creature of the labyrinth, or besides Jareth, and we don't know his name at that point. He's just the Goblin King. This kind of sets us off on our whole journey. Like, nothing here is what she expects. A line that keeps coming up and is actually on the poster, nothing is as it seems. And everything is kind of defying her expectations of this, you know, elaborate high fantasy world. And almost all of the things that she comes across, both sentient creatures and inanimate things, a lot of them can be found in her room. There's just little bits all over the place, and every time you watch it, you can kind of find a new one.
That's why I kind of pointed out, or it stuck with me, that she has the Wizard of Oz in her room, and it's highlighted a couple of times.
Yeah, there are a lot of Dorothy parallels in this.
Like, it's not a dream, I don't think, but it is. Wizard of Oz is a journey where she kind of learns lessons individually by people that come into her experience, like the Scarecrow teaches her something, and in this movie, the first lesson that she learns is can't take anything for granted. The first thing, you know, because she took Toby for granted. The first thing she learns is you can't take for granted that there's not a door right there.
Yeah.
And then,
and also like, she is constantly, you know, getting into this like giving up too easily sort of thing. Like, look, you need to look at it another way. You need to be asking the right questions. And
Yeah.
hell, that's a line that's stuck with me my entire life. Anytime that I am approaching, whether it's something at work or whether it's something creatively, what are the right questions? Because if you're not asking the right questions, then you're not really going to be moving forward toward the thing that you were trying to find.
The quality of the answer is defined by the quality of the question. I was saying to Dave that this is one tragedy away from becoming a Clive Barker movie.
Yeah. Like, just sit around and basically swap out the Jim Henson Muppets with a little bit of latex makeup, add a little blood, and Clive Barker would be all over this shit. I can see him basically sitting around with some of the people involved with this film and going, okay, so anyway, I've got this book called the Great and Secret Show. Yeah, let's roll with this. Have some fun with it. And you know, Clive is basically stylistically very, very similar in terms of his desire to make journeys for people into these otherworldly places with beings whose motivations are different than anything we might expect.
Yeah.
And I think that ties in particularly well with this.
That's why I've never.
But I think, but also it also has that George Lucas element of his love of hero's journey as a style.
Yeah.
And I've never seen Jim Henson as a children's entertainer. I've always been engaged by his stuff, regardless of the age I am. And I think it is because he is, he's not that different from Clive Barker, except Clive Barker's going way darker. It's like Labyrinth is just the less dark version of these same kind of journeys.
Actually, I'd even go with, I think that it's still every bit as dark. I mean, we're talking about stealing children and all of these other elements. Fairy tales, by their very nature, tend to be dark. What Clive does is he makes them more explicit. It sounds a bit odd when I say this, but he makes it a bit more adults looking backward toward the freedom of childhood. And in this case, it's more like children sitting there and looking at the power of adulthood.
Yeah.
And I think that somewhere in there is a passing element where you could really do an interesting story. And I think also, you know, it's kind of like this is pre-adolescent and Clive is definitely post-adolescent.
Don't you think if Clive was doing this, then the helping hands would have all had claws and eyes in their palms?
Oh yeah, that also would have.
We already had the eyeballs. These guys in the wall.
Actually, I would love to see a Clive Barker Guillermo del Toro crossover where Guillermo makes a Clive Barker story into a film.
Oh my god!
It feels like a Clive Barker contract. If they're like, "Do you want to go up or down?" And she's like, "Down."
Or
like,
down.
She chose down.
I swear,
this down.
She chose down.
Yeah.
There are so many like live performance art style theater techniques being utilized in this. And again, maybe that's one of the draws to it for me. And the reason that I like certain kinds of theater that I do. Like it's all very fantastical and it requires a hell of a lot of effort to be able to coordinate all that stuff, because it's not like all of the like with the helping hands, not all of the mouths and the faces are the same. No. They're not even the same age. Like, where did your big decision for her? You got an old guy, you got a young guy, you got a really obnoxious guy.
Directing one of these movies is not like directing a movie. It's probably like directing 3 movies, because you have your live cast, you have your puppet cast, you have an elevated set, so you have actors that are puppeteering on the bottom that can't see what's going on. It's got to be incredibly difficult.
Yeah. Everyone show some respect for puppeteers, because they do some amazing things. That is just this entire skill set that, you know, you could never even imagine how much goes into that toolkit.
Right. Well, you know, even though they actually can see what's going on because they have monitors hooked up, but that's in reverse. So they're acting in a reverse way. Like when they turn right, the character turns left. Yada yada.
So the goblins were all children, and you were talking about how much darker, because I mentioned Wizard of Oz and you're like, it's way darker than Wizard of Oz. So where were you going with that? I mean, we can all kind of
know, like if you read the rest of the Oz series, like that shit
it's real
wow.
dark.
I have not. Yeah. I think that Gareth is for lack of better terms, a demon. And but I think that he is he's neutral evil because he allows for free will, but he definitely seeks
Malicious end.
a malicious, an malicious end to everything. You know, he does not want Sarah to reach the castle. In fact, when she does start getting close, she calls out the guards and wants her basically killed. If he can't have her kind of willingly.
Are they
they're
really that competent?
No, he knows that they're not competent, but he wants his final crack at her.
I was gonna say he's there whether it's to please her, to give her the culmination to the adventure that she so desperately wants, or whether it's for his own ends. He wants that final confrontation.
I think Jareth is here to test, to show Sarah, just like all the other people who are kind of showing her a lesson as she goes along, that she can embrace the responsibilities of adulthood and retain her love of her childish things, that quote unquote childish things that she enjoys, and doesn't have to choose between them. She thinks that there's a choice there, and he's sort of there to teach her that she doesn't have to choose, because that's kind of where she ends up at the end, where she's like, every once in a while I'm going to need you guys again, and she's talking to her toys, and she gets to
that bit always makes me cry, which is talking to them in the mirror.
But it's for me anyway, when I was watching it yesterday, I'm like, he's kind of here more to give her what she wants, to show her that it's not that you can have what you want, but you don't want to get it at the expense of your agency. She thinks that she has to give up agency to have what she wants, and he's showing her that she doesn't have to. She doesn't have to sell her soul to get these things. She can have it both ways.
She doesn't actually have to kind of give herself over to it all.
I think it's almost the exact opposite. He wants her to be the Goblin Queen, and if he can't have her willingly, and she can't make it to the castle, well, okay, so I have another goblin slave. And if she does make it and she does choose to stay with me, then we will raise this child together.
Think of it. And like
my little headcanon has always been that Jareth is a spirit that is attached to Sarah, because the owl is very much a tip off at the beginning, and the owl is still there at the end when he transforms after looking in on her. And I think that that spirit is just sitting there going, okay, somebody's got to guide her past this point in her life. And it's either, well, I guide her past this point, or we stay at this point and I now have a playmate for the rest of my life. And I think that's kind of
she's a good adversary, right?
Yeah, those two, I can see those two sitting there.
He's got to have someone who can match wits with him. At the very least, these fucking goblins, man, can't do nothing with them.
I mean, they're definitely not even close to his. And he just strikes me as being this kind of almost post-adolescent, slightly past that point character mentally, where he's like, I want to sit here and mess with you just to watch around messing with you, so that way you mess with me and we sit around and we have this great interaction.
We sit around and we mess with each other.
There's the scene, to me, the most important two scenes in the movie are when the junk woman comes into her bedroom and tries to
turn her into one of her,
make her focus on the rewards and the trinkets and the distractions rather than being conscious. And then the scene right after that is David Bowie kind of leading her into this dream where she gets all she wants. He's the prince and they're all in a ball.
That's actually in reverse, but I get what you're talking about.
Very close together anyway.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, like, that's why it reminded me of Nightmare on Elm Street, because the whole point that Wes Craven was talking about was that the adults are all in this kind of ignoring reality kind of thing, where they don't want to face what they've done in the past, and the children cannot survive unless they are conscious, and that's why it's throughout the whole movie we keep hearing, don't fall asleep. And to me, those two scenes are her being lured back into the unconsciousness of, oh, I'll just stay in my room. I want my things. I don't care about this baby. And having to say, no, other people matter. I have to take care of this. And I can't fall prey to these distractions. And
I think you actually bring up kind of a good point, because it's not just that, you can have your whimsy as you grow up, and you don't have to just put it aside forever. But you also have to take on the adult responsibilities. I also think there's something to be said that, part of this being set out on this journey, kind of pushed into it. She's dreaming all the time, and she's shutting herself away in her room, and she's cloistering herself away from friends or potential dates, if that's something that she's into. Because I think she's kind of put on this path, because if you just dream about your dreams rather than like going forward and like putting those dreams into action, like if she wants to be an actor like her mother, or if she wants to write stories, or hey, maybe she'll become a film writer, you can't just sit around and dream about it all the time. You can actually take those wild and fantastical dreams and bring them into reality and share them with other people too. They don't have to be just for you. There's a lot of layers over here or in this movie about holding on to the things that make childhood great, but in a way that like you can actually do something with them. I do think Jareth, and Dave, I wanted to say, do you think that Jareth and Edward from Twilight are the same kind of dark fae? Because they both sparkle.
I don't think that they are,
and they're never in full sunlight anytime. Like it's very like dark and like sunrisey or twilighty when they are first on top of that hill.
I can see that,
overlooking
but
the
I think that
labyrinth.
also Jareth has been existing in the Feylands a lot longer than
Edward.
Edward and his family have been exiled from the Feylands. Like, y'all can go live with the mortals because you suck.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe they pissed off Jareth and he exiled them.
Yeah, that's
actually that would be a fun little like fan fiction thing to write out, where because I think that the Twilight series works better as a dark phase story
than it does a
than
vampire story.
Because I hate to be a purist in anything, but yeah, give me my Lestat. That is my kind of vampire.
Well, and that actually again brings me back around to that that bit of headcanon that I was thinking. Jareth is one of these creatures that like his power kind of waxes and wanes, or maybe not power, but like his influence in the world that comes directly from him is kind of not totally fueled. Like he'll exist one way or the other, regardless if anybody knows him or thinks about him, but it's stronger when he has human worship, humans thinking about him.
Yes.
And he kind of feeds off of that energy. And that's possibly why the labyrinth and his castle are kind of in ruin a little bit. Like it's semi still alive and working, but it's not like in its full glory. And I imagine at one time there might have been like keepers for the labyrinth who kept everything much neater looking, and it was less full of tree debris.
Job.
What?
Yeah, I think Hoggle may be the new guy, or he's like he's the only one that's left from the original team, and because it's just him, I'm like, what's he gonna do? Fire me?
Yeah. No, he'll put you over the bog of eternal stench.
Prince of the land of stench.
Remember that the oubliette did still have the cleaners.
I love the word oubliette, by the way.
Yeah.
It's how I'd remembered the word for to forget in French, because I was a terrible child and took French instead of Spanish in high school. But oublier means to forget. Yes. Oubliette, it's where you put someone to forget about them.
It is pretty dark to have a gulag in the labyrinth.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, okay, so perhaps it was this. perhaps Jareth did rule the lands with his wife, his queen, Sarah, thousands of years ago. And a being of some sort cast a spell on their first child and made it a goblin. Sarah, in her dismay, threw herself into the bog, and
it will stink
Jareth
forever.
She
has
smells terrible
been
now.
and Jareth has been on his search for his new Sarah ever since. And if he can't have Sarah, then he turns the child into a goblin.
Okay.
I want to know how many whiskeys you've had, or beers, or whatever it is that you've
I've had two.
I've had three
And-
already. So
and
if
they
I've-
were only Angry Orchards, nothing
Mhm.
special.
All right,
But,
all right.
yes.
I'm kind of working my way through 3 and 4. We'll see how it goes.
That Jim Henson door knocker has nothing on these. One of them always tells the truth. One of them always lies. Door knocker. Another
Okay.
very common trope
All right.
in
I don't
dungeon crawl
understand.
hero
I
movies.
don't understand that riddle. Will
I do.
someone please explain it to me?
So if one's going to
Explain
lie
it in
and
the
one's going to tell the
comments.
truth, you ask the other one if the other one would lie, because he can't lie to you and make the other one tell the truth. So you're
Either that or
pitting
they're
them
both
against
liars
each
and they're
other.
just assholes.
That doesn't make any sense to me. Someone please make sense out of it.
That's
If you asked the liar guard would tell you that the truth guard would point to the door that leads to death. Therefore, no matter who you ask, the guards tell you which door leads to death, and therefore you can pick the other door. If you choose the truthful guard, he will give you an honest answer.
Oh, this is totally squishy.
okay.
I mean,
Very
you're
squishy.
stepping through into an alternate reality. It may or may not be a dream.
Mhm.
The dream will carry over into the world itself that you live in. Oh, this is squishy as fuck. Totally, bam,
Yes.
squishy approved.
Squishy approved.
Yes.
All right. So after we get out of the oubliette, we find the wise man, one of my favorite.
Frank Oz, by the way.
A young woman. Woo, woo, woo! Which is the sound I make whenever I see a pretty lady.
You too? I'm so glad I'm not the only
No,
one.
God,
Okay,
no,
well, that's three of us then.
I say so many lines from this movie, like complete with the voices and everything, and the exact same inflection. And if anybody gets what I'm referencing, even though it's just randomly
You
in a
get
random
bullet points in the real
conversation,
world.
I know I found my people.
Right?
So
See,
after the
I
wise
do the
men,
same thing.
after the
Yep.
wise man in his hat, we're going through this hedge portion of the maze, and we've got these really cool combination of like people in costume, and it's meant to be like what are the oh my god, why can't I remember? Star Wars, help me.
Tauntauns.
The Tauntauns.
Yeah, I knew
So
what
you've
you were
got these
thinking of.
like non-furry tauntaun creatures that have no arms but 2 legs, and little little goblin soldiers riding on top of them.
Yep.
And they're torturing this giant, very furry creature who we find out is named Ludo, and he's very sweet, and we love him a lot.
Ludo is awesome.
Yeah.
Wait, look up. Yeah, look up.
Yay! But after Jareth has, convinced Hoggle, like, nobody's ever going to be friends with you, and you work for me, so you're going to do what I say. And he threatens to throw him into the bog of eternal stench. 1 foot in it, and you'll stink forever. And he makes this comment, like, because you got to throw in, the princess kissing a frog kind of reference. Oh, and Hoggle, if she ever kisses you, I'll turn you into a prince. You will. Prince of the land of stench. God damn, I love that man. So after they have gained, the final member to their team, or members if you count the loyal steed.
Yeah.
Sarah is getting really hungry, and Hoggle remembers, oh, I've got this peach. This is probably a good opportunity for me to do the thing here. And he feels really, really guilty about it. And she is just like so thankful because she's starving. And again, this has that moment of like, no, you're in the land of the Fae. Don't
Snow
eat
White.
anything they give you,
Pure
no
Snow
matter
White.
how hungry you get. Fucking Persephone did it. You know, countless of poor Irish lasses have done it. Don't do it. And clearly, after she's taken a bite, she realizes that something is wrong, and she goes through this whole like drugged, dreamy reverie, which, you know, oh God, I get fucking chills for the opening chords of that song. And then you have this whole ballroom sequence that is very like plays with angles of the camera a lot. There's some fisheye lens action going on. And we get the sense that she is actually inside one of those crystals that Jareth can be seen twirling around in his fingers and, you know, just sending off into the forest. And she has on this glorious dress. Her hair is hella 80s poofy. And Jareth, looking gorgeous as always, is, you know, this mysterious prince figure, you know, that kind of keeps popping up, and she's searching for him in this room, and she's forgotten everything else. And this becomes her focus. She's only focusing on finding a man. It's what the stepmother wanted. You see, she is evil. They have their little dance, but it doesn't last. The effects of the peach are starting to wear off, and Sarah is still, even though she's forgotten everything, even like who she is, beyond playing this character in this little world that dream world that Jareth has created. She starts to, like, the faces become more ghoulish all around here. The laughter becomes crueler and like
derisive, maybe.
Yes, God. See, I thought that's what I was trying to say, and then I was like, wait, no, that's another word. But she suddenly realizes, ooh, this is wrong somehow. I feel wrong being here, and I need to leave. And you know, she's trying to get out, and she finds there are no doors. She's crossed past these curtains, but she's hit a wall, literally. And you know, it's curved in glass. So she does the only thing that she can think of as she hears the time striking midnight, reference to Cinderella, obviously, which means she only has 1 hour left in Labyrinth time, because when at 1300 hours, because their days run on 26 hours, presumably, you know, she's running out of time. The lyrics of the song have come true. As the world falls down, everything is you know, the shattering and falling all around her, and she's doing the 80s, like, I'm falling through the air, and I'm not attached to anything,
like the Lost Boys.
Yeah, no, like see after watching this, can you not tell that there are a lot of similar things happening here?
True. Just saying, there's a certain crossover element in pretty much all the fantasy of the 80s. You know, Coke. But anyway.
All right, so after Sarah has, you know, crashed out of the dream world and collapsed, she still has the peach in her hand, and she has no idea what's going on. She kind of looks at the peach. There's a worm, like an actual worm, not a cute little cockney worm, but an actual worm crawling out of it. Throws it away, and she's landed in this junkyard. And you know, as she's kind of like trying to move around and get out, she, like, you know, pushes over almost the person that we come to know as the junk lady. Yes. And I love this character. Oh, get off my back! Why don't you look where you're going, young woman? And inside this little room, it's Sarah's room. It's Sarah's room, and everything is as exactly as she left it. And even though she can't, she can't really remember who she is or what she was doing. She says, kind of that glimmer of memory, you know, I was looking for something important. And that's when the junk lady leads her into this room, and Sarah, you know, plops down on the bed and was like, oh, or wait, Lancelot is on the bed. let's go see if Daddy's home, okay? And they go to the door, and it's the fucking junk lady. Like, that is really terrifying to see all that darkness out there. No, don't want to go out there. No, no, no. And she starts,
Here's your pencil set. You like your pencil set, don't you?
Yeah, like that. And your pander slippers. Don't forget your pander slippers. You love them. Ooh, and Flopsy. You gotta have Flopsy too. And I sometimes feel like that, like when I'm trying to sort through all of my nerdy knickknackery. I sometimes feel like that. Like, no, all my precious things. It's fine. It's fine.
That's how I feel.
Precious. Sorry, someone had to do it.
And she keeps just piling on the stuff. But then the problem with totally recreating the room as Sarah left it is it contains the play. It's on her desk, and she picks it up and she opens it straight to the page that she was on last, which is the bit where the heroine is confronting the antagonist. Through dangers untold and hardships unnumbered, I have fought my way here to the castle beyond the Goblin City to take back the child you have stolen. Oh my God, I have to save my brother. Her friends, the ragtag team, are coming to reach down into the junk and pull her out. We've got a we've got a castle to crash. And then we finally get to, that final confrontation bit, and all of her friends are like, okay, let's go get him. And she says, no, I have to do this alone. Thank you all very much. And I love you. And I couldn't have gotten this far without you. I have to do this alone. And Didymus says that line, should you need us?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's actually Hoggle. Hoggle says that.
Yeah.
Should you need us? Yes. Should you need us? Oh, call. Thank you. All of you. And then we get to the coolest fucking scene, I think, in the entire movie. Just like, technically astounding, the Escher room. Yes, the Escher room. And she has
the painting in her room. Yeah.
The Escher stairwell painting in her room. And Toby is in there in his annoying ass little pajamas. She keeps calling out and Toby, Toby, Toby. And I get kind of annoyed with her again at that scene. And maybe it's just because I wish that they would have had her say Toby like twice and then not anymore. Because like, he's a baby. Like, he didn't know what's going on. He seems like he's having a good time.
At least she wasn't screaming Carol Ann or
oh my God.
Michael on the Lost Boys.
Oh my God. See, this is where we get into another one of those places where my headcanon is a little bit in between Dan and John. Because I think this started out as him kind of just doing his job, but I think at a certain point he does have like kind of a weird fascination, and I won't go so far to say desire, because she is very, very young and he's very, very old. But I think it's like it's something. There's a draw there, and he's pissed off about that. He's pissed off that she has power over him. And that's another line that comes up at the end of this confrontation, where she goes through the little monologue, because it's the final confrontation. It's time. I got to bring this to its very epic, adventurous end. And she forgets the line again, just like she did in the very opening of the movie.
You have no power over me.
Yes, that's the line she always forgets. Because she always gets stuck at the last part. Because very confident, for my will is as strong as yours, and my kingdom is as great. Oh, and God, the back and forth.
Very meta of you to forget that too.
Right, yeah. Right.
Again, the same ending as A Nightmare on Elm Street from 2 years earlier, where Nancy says, "You have no power over me. I take back all the power I gave you. You're nothing. You're shit." And that's how she beats him. It's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the end, this entire story, though, is pretty much a creation of Sarah's mind, and that Jareth is kind of, for lack of any other way of putting it, Jareth is kind of the storyteller in the midst of all of this. He is the one who's creating the whole scene. And then in the end, it's suddenly, you sit there and Jareth is the director of the story that Sarah has written. And Sarah realizes, wait, I'm writing this story. That means I have the fucking power.
I've got a slightly different take. I think that every time the Labyrinth is created, aka every time Jareth looks for a new Sarah, I think that it's created in the image of the Sarah that he is pursuing. So
really on this theory.
that's
You
I
are
think
you're
that
really into that theory.
I think that is why Jareth actually visits the room of the person that of the Sarah that is invoking him, because he needs
I mean,
to
it was
get a
Toby's
layout.
room, but
I have a well,
just saying.
the room that she's in.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Well,
Where
no,
else
and
is he gonna
also,
meet her?
but
He's got to meet her where she is.
I think that
A lesson for all of us. You got to meet people where they're at.
I think that the crystal is actually basically an information soaking thing. Like it that's why she starts looking
Okay,
like
then.
she's a little bit dreamy when she's looking at it, is because it's
Mhm.
pulling her thoughts into it, of all the things she holds dear to her, and then it applies it to the creation of the labyrinth.
Would you say
Well, that
that
sounds
the
mythos.
crystal drains her of her vital essence?
No, because if it was absent her vital essence, I think that it's something that gives Jareth an insight into what it is that she has going on. But I think if it drains her of her vital essence, I think it more creates a connection rather than draining her.
As Sarah remembers the line and speaks it, you have no power over me, and she repeats it with more force, you have no power over me. Jareth throws the crystal in the air, it goes up and comes back down, and Sarah reaches out to catches it, and it just bursts into tiny little glittery bits. And that part has always kind of like, that part cuts at me, because that comes across as a like, well, no, you had a chance to take your dreams and make them a reality, but you gave them up to do the responsible adult thing. I don't think that's how it shakes out. But every time I see that moment, it cuts at me very, very deep. And it's still something that I get really, really annoyed with.
I read it as a very empowering moment, because she isn't giving up on her dreams. She's taking away the ability, like you. I don't know how many of you have read The Alchemist, but there's a character in The Alchemist who, the main character of The Alchemist is living his dream. He's going through it, and he meets someone who who has a dream, tells him about his dream, but is more comfortable with having the dream than pursuing the dream. And I think at that moment, when she grabs it and she has decided that she's going to pursue the dream rather than
just keep dreaming the dream.
Dreaming the dream and sitting in her room with her trinkets and her toys, and to have the dream, she doesn't have to stop. She doesn't have to ignore responsibilities. She can integrate them both. And
so you think she was the one who basically destroyed it?
Yeah,
and made the conscious choice to do so.
She made a conscious choice to destroy it, and it's an empowering moment for her rather than something that she's giving up. She actually,
because Jareth took all of her dreams and fantasy and put it into that crystal that created the labyrinth for her. And when she reaches out for it, she destroys all that was taken from her, I think.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And there was one other thing that we didn't mention. How does Sarah beat the Escher room? She keeps trying to go at it with what she knows. She's going along with the rules of conventional gravity and physics.
I figured that the puzzle doesn't have to be solved. The solution to the puzzle is you have no power over me. It's the solution to all the puzzles.
Or you could look at it as that, or you can look at it as I'm still trying to play your game, but what if I just refuse to play your game?
Yeah, I love the movie. And
I love
this
it
movie
so much. It's not boring at all.
these stupid Angry Orchards.
I watched it when it first hit video in the 80s, and then every few years it would come up somewhere and I'd be like, oh,
Labyrinth's on.
This is cool. All right, we'll put that on the background. I mean, as a hardcore Bowie fanatic, let's face it, you put on a film with David Bowie in it, I'm pretty much locked in.
You gotta watch. You gotta watch.
I mean, a film like, The Hunger, for example, which we'll review at some point in time, is, especially that first 10 minutes, is one of those all-time great kind of like Gothic classics. And this one, I'll be perfectly honest. Bowie is kind of a mixture of that great kind of Ziggy Stardust with a little bit of goth, and you can definitely see his impact on the Japanese visual kei scene.
Yep.
They were
Well,
actually
and I mean, I love that that's how that happened, because like a lot of what inspired Ziggy Stardust was him studying kabuki theater.
Yeah.
And all of the techniques and the makeup style that went with all of that, and then that in turn inspired a lot of the visual kei movement in Japan, and just,
everything kind of runs around in circles.
It's beautiful.
My favorite story about this actually is the Seven Samurai, thinking about things going in circles between America or Europe and Japan.
Yeah.
The Seven Samurai the Seven Samurai inspired the film The Magnificent Seven in the United States. And one of the huge influences on
Star Wars.
On
now that I did not know.
One of the people who Kurosawa was a massive fan of was John Ford. Like he said that John Ford is the reason that he got into film in the first place. He loved American Westerns.
Yeah.
So when they were putting together The Magnificent Seven, one of the directors that was considered for it was John Ford. And all I can picture is Kurosawa just losing his shit. Like, oh my God. Senpai noticed.
But like internally, because.
But I think that I love this film as a cultural element of its time, but it also speaks to a lot of ongoing storytelling elements. It's the hero's journey. It's the fairy tale elements, but done in such a way that you understand that fairy tales have dark consequences if you get this shit wrong.
Yeah.
And David Bowie does that great moment of being both kind of like, a fantasy that you want to approach while realizing that there is some very serious menace underneath. And I think across the board, okay, here's where I put my grade down. Bam, press play again and again and again. It's a film you can show, and it's going to be timeless.
Hopefully I don't say this inartfully, but I think it was cool that someone came along and made a hero's journey movie from the feminine perspective, because you get Alice in Wonderland and stuff like that, but you actually have George Lucas taking the Star Wars approach that he brought with Luke Skywalker, actually applying to the feminine perspective, and it's just an interesting movie, of its type, because there aren't too many out there like that in the 80s.
This is maybe something to go into, maybe like kind of a longer essay style thing, where we could maybe take a few things like Labyrinth, like Star Wars, and kind of go over that hero's journey storytelling technique. And I almost think, I'm sure there are other ones that kind of contributed to this, but I feel like Labyrinth was one of the first ones in this century, at least, or rather in the 20th century. I'm still living in the 1990s. It's fine.
I'm there too.
I'm living in the 1990s, and I'm not 6 years old. I'm a teenager, and I get to wear all the cool stuff and listen to all the music.
Me and John are going to go see Pearl Jam.
All right, cool. What was I saying? Shit. Right. Oh, but like at some point, I think people started getting into the idea, like, oh, right, women are people too. We should give them, stories about finding themselves and coming of age. But then I think people almost got kind of stuck on that, because they were trying to make up for the lack of feminine-driven stories, like with Labyrinth, and even though it wasn't quite the same with Alice in Wonderland and Wizard of Oz. And then it sort of fell away from the Star Wars style of things for the young men, where they are, he found his group of people, and together they saved the galaxy. He didn't do everything on his own. And nowadays it seems pretty common that a lot of the stories about young men who are the heroes of the story, and they go off on their epic adventure, even if you don't have the princess is the prize element, you still have like the boy is doing it on his own.
I have all my little dark theories about it, but overall, it's an incredibly fun film that if you don't look deeply into it, it still is just an incredible journey of fun and beautiful things that you know, that exist and will always exist because, you know, aren't all four of us kind of like Sarah in that, you know, the trinkets and the things that we hold dear, we don't want to let go of that. I personally, you know, found the ending of that movie so sad as I was, you know, watching growing up, because I don't want to give up that kind of stuff. I want to be a Toys R Us kid, you know, and that's I don't want to give up on all. No, I resist. I will fight to the death to keep my toys and my trinkets and my things and my adventure and my fantasy in my life. And
you got to keep the whimsy alive.
I would rather die. I would rather die than to conform.
But I think that's part of the. I think that's part of the actual theme of the film is that you can step into growing. You can step into growing older and growing adult without necessarily having to grow all the way up. You can hold on to your dreams. You can hold on to your desires, and you can especially hold on to the stories that you hold dear. Yeah. And I think that, you know, especially in the end when she's sitting there dancing with the goblins in her room, in her own space at the end, and Sheriff just flies off, it almost feels like my work here is done. I have created a human being who can both dream and live in the world at the same time. All right.
I find that ending very
Now, where's
uplifting.
my next Sarah?
Yep.
I
will find one eventually.
I find
what
that
are you
ending,
saying, Dan?
I find that ending very uplifting because she doesn't have to give it up.
Yeah.
Right.
She
but
finds
I mean,
a way, but she finds a way to keep it without having to sell her soul. She always thought she'd have to give something up to keep that aspect of herself alive. And she finds a way to say, no, Toby matters. This matters to me too. I can have both. I don't have this. Toby's not going to keep me from being an actress. I can, you know, I'll just have to make it work.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's maybe, again, part of the whole, I don't know whether they just moved there from somewhere else, or again, if her mom is dead, or if her parents are divorced.
I feel like her mom gave something up. That's why she thinks.
Well, see, and I cut. That's why I usually lean towards the divorce side of things. I don't really think her mother was absent so much, but I think she does feel a little bit left behind, and so she both idolizes her mother and also is kind of trying to hold on to a past that was a lot simpler and there were less people involved, and you know, it was easier to deal with, and she was safe then. And because that place doesn't exist anymore, you know, that's when she starts collecting.
I think that mom gave up her family to become famous, and ended up marrying Jeremy, aka Jareth. Yeah. And I think that Jareth looks like Jeremy because that is what's in her mind as what took her mom
away from her
dreams away, as well as her mother from her.
I think her mom actually probably achieved her dreams, but at a cost.
At a cost.
And that's why she believes that's why it has to be done that way. And then she she comes to the realization that it doesn't have to be a
exactly.
choice.